Recording in progress. So we're going to go ahead and share our little L10 our L10 meeting process with the world. So I'm not going to share my screen though, because I don't know if the world needs to see everything we're doing.
Probably not.
So so this is an L10 meeting. And let's just go through it and we'll kind of verbalize. I guess I can start with the overview. So the first part of the meeting is what? Segue, which is good news and wins. So we'll
Yeah.
talk about that from the prior week or prior interval. So I suppose that's like usually a week because you do L10s every week. The next thing is the scorecard. After that, we have the rock review, which is rocks that you set up in your quarterly planning meeting that we keep track of throughout the quarter. And we just say, hey, are these on track or off track? And then we just move on. There's not a whole lot of conversation. Um, Headlines is after that. At Resound, it's like stakeholder headlines. So it's basically, is there anything new popping up? Any contractors changing status or any clients say anything, customers, is there anything going on out there in the world that we need to bring to our attention and share with the team? There's a to-do list, which is a task list, which is intended to be like this should have been done in the last week or so. Let's see if it got done. Then there's the big part, which is the IDS. What does IDS stand for? Do you remember? I'm putting you on
I
the
always
spot.
think ideas, but
Yeah, it is. It's like identify, define, and solve. This
yep.
is like the EOS. And so, yeah, I forget what it means. I just know what it does, right?
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, that's the exact same thing here.
yeah. So there's anything brought up during until this point in the meeting that needs to be talked about and solved, like maybe there's a rock that's off track that's actually important and we need to solve it. We might put that in the IDS. There's a stakeholder headline like, oh, one of our clients is leaving. Let's IDS that. Just make sure there's nothing that we should be doing so things like that. And then there's we rate the meeting after at the end, which is like on a 10-point scale, anything below 8 needs an explanation. So you have to explain if it's below an 8. And then you have like backlog, which is things that you might want to discuss at the quarterly meeting that you might want to bring back on as a rock or anything like that, or just anything you just want to push off till later that you never will visit again, and that's fine.
Yep.
So that's the overview. Those are all the things that we're going to talk about. So let's do it for real and let people see how we do it. What do you think, Brandon?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Just give people a little bit of view into what some productive processes can be and how to keep things organized, kind of like what we spoke about in our previous podcast about the importance of organization. I think this is one way to make meetings fairly organized and try to get through stuff in a productive fashion. So, like
Yep.
you said, we started with the good news. Did you have any good news from this week?
Good news. Well, we launched our first podcast last week, so that's pretty good news. That's a win.
Yes, that is very good news. That's been a long time coming, or at least it's felt like a long time. On the
Yeah.
grand scheme of things, like 90 days, but it felt like a long time. So
Yeah.
definitely good news.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely good news. What about you? Got anything other than that? I mean, how do you
Uh
follow that, right?
yeah, I was gonna say mine is pales in comparison to that for good news, but for me it was getting some of my social media updated and relaunched. I'd been off of social media for quite a while uh, because of some of my previous employers and things like that. But now that I'm not in those current positions anymore, moved on to bigger and better things, relaunched my social media this week and getting things organized. So, yeah, that was nice to do's to get done this week and keep continuing to develop what we're doing here and my professional side of things.
That's awesome. Um, Scorecard. So we don't have a scorecard yet. We're so early in the process. It'll probably look like something like, oh, how many podcast views on YouTube did we have,
Well,
and things like
we got
that. And
7.
then did we?
Yeah, if you saw, at least the last time I saw it, because ironically, my wife keeps telling me, "Oh, this person saw your podcast. This person saw your podcast." I'm like, I didn't realize we were going to be so popular. So I kept looking, and we got a whole 7 views. So
Dude,
not
7
that we're
views.
tracking anything, but we've gotten 7 views of our podcast.
That's awesome. Did you share it on social or anything?
Not yet, because I just got those created within like the last 24 to 48 hours, so I haven't
Oh
got it
yeah,
shared yet. But
that's true.
moving forward, I will definitely be sharing that out.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I shared mine on Facebook and got a few, likes, I guess. So that's good. Um, it's not perfect, but perfect is the enemy of done, right?
Oh, absolutely. I can't tell you how many projects I have seen stalled trying to obtain perfection. And oftentimes I find perfection actually is further from what you need than if you just left it incomplete.
Yeah.
And it probably was a waste of time trying to complete something that didn't need to be to that level, anyways.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so the next thing is rock review. And so I think I'm just looking at these things and thinking, I think we've sort of done these things basically. And right now it's like a lot of cleanup.
I
YouTube
would agree.
channel, podcast. That's really it's like a noun, not a task.
Yeah.
um, I mean, video production, content setup, technical. I feel like we're done with that. There's stuff to do still, but I'm gonna vote that we mark that completed.
I would agree. I would say that is completed.
I'm moving that bad boy over then to archive, delete. Okay, good. Yeah, archive. Next is the website. And so what does done look like on that one? Oh, choose name and URL. We chose a name and I bought the URL and it
Oh, you
is
did?
go to talk-ops.com. I can't believe
Really?
we got
Uh,
talk-ops.com. I can't believe it. It's not looking awesome right now. I
oh my
still have a little
goodness.
bit of work, but it's
Look at
there
that.
and it's garnering SEO as we speak since it's in production now. So
Yeah. Well, look at that. I did not know that.
yeah, I was gonna tell you. Oh, that's a win.
That's a huge win. That's awesome. Yeah, because I've seen the page in development, but I had not seen that you'd actually launched that. So
Yep,
awesome.
sure did. It just did that this morning. So like just like half hour before, well, like around
Huh.
10:30. So hour ago.
That's why I didn't see it. I was
Oh.
still messing with my microphone at that point.
Hmm.
But
Brand guide, share, create, and share. I put that all into a let's see, add colors, voice tone and mood. Didn't do that. Logo and usage. That's in the folder. Location file created, good. Add textures. I don't have textures added. That's dude, that's like close because this morning I put all the YouTube assets and logo so far that we have the um uh talk ops logo, all that. I updated YouTube so it's cleaner because I didn't like how it looked before. And then for our first one. So updated that a little bit.
like the thumbnail and stuff.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, if you look at it slightly different now, it's slightly cleaner. It's a little
Okay.
less just screenshotty and it's a little more vector. Um, yeah. So there's still some cleanup, but I just wanted to bring it that 10% closer to looking.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not a lot, but um email integration, that's done. I
Yep.
successfully added myself through the email form. So to the email. So I'm gonna go move that over to back archive and basically done. Um, get podcast equipment and setup environment. How are you feeling about that?
Well, I felt really good about that until we tried logging on and half of it didn't work. Um, but I would say by and large it's good. Got my microphones, got my cameras, by and large got a pretty cleaned up environment, unless you think my environment doesn't look good from your end of things. But
Um,
by and large, I think I got most of that stuff set up and purchased. So personally, I'd mark it as done unless you see something from your end that
I
doesn't
know
look
that
good.
that wolf in your background looks kind of scary. That wolf. Never mind. Can you hear me?
Oh, did I lose you?
Did we just freeze up? I said that wolf in your background looks a little scary. Frozen.
Chris?
I can hear you now. Did I
Oh,
lose you?
okay. Yeah, for a second there. Sorry about that.
And then email list setup. We set up the list. Dude, we kicked tail.
Yeah, we did. Well, I'd say congrats to you. You kicked tail. I feel like you knocked most of those off.
Thanks, man. Also, it's kind of like my day job a little bit too. I've done it a lot. So, um, any stakeholder headlines?
Uh
Not really, unless we've talked with people about what we're doing and kind of gotten that out there and shared it with people.
yeah. I mean, I don't know that it's much different information than he's got before, but I did talk to Pastor Bear about it this week. I went out to lunch with him on Tuesday, Monday, one of
Nice.
those days. Um, to talk about all sorts of stuff. But this did come up and we did discuss it and kind of asked what our plan was and just reshared the vision kind of that it's we're here to help people and try to lend our services wherever we can be helpful and productive. We've seen, we've discussed this plenty in our personal meetings and things like that, but just so many people who could use help and just a helping hand along the way, that anything we can do to try to assist people and realize the dream just as kind of goodwill and good service around Idaho and our community and our church and things like that. So yeah,
Yeah.
just kind of reiterated that with Pastor Bear this week and had a good discussion with him. So he seems excited about it. And I think he said he even saw our podcast. So he's
Oh
probably one of
wow.
our 7 views.
Sweet. Um, yeah. So the uh yeah, so that's good. And then I guess maybe we should probably think about this is probably an IDS item rather than a headline. Um, but just like how do we have more stakeholders so we can have stakeholder headlines is probably just like,
Sure.
maybe we invite someone to get on the podcast, like try to get them running fairly well with just you and me. And then once you and I get a little more comfortable with the flow and everything, I
Mm-hmm.
think then having other people, like maybe some business owners, on and talk about their problems and just kind of workshop some things, would really be nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that would be really valuable.
And and I think it would be cool. I don't know, it was the IDS thing, but I think it would be cool if they could share, if it would be something where they would want to share it, right? So we talk about not like glorifying them, like it has to be real or else it'll be stupid. It'll be like a rah-rah, like, oh, it's the business podcast where we talk about how great whoever's on is.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
like, okay, so it's just like everybody, patting each other on the back and boring, right? But
Mm-hmm.
like what are problems your industry faces? What is one of the bigger, like how do you deal with it? And
Yeah.
um is there anything from another industry we could borrow that could, what are some options that you might explore, and then you and I can kind of workshop that a little bit with them or whatever.
Absolutely.
So it would
Yeah.
be a
I
lot of
got
fun.
I got one person in mind who's kind of even going through some of the same kind of startup stuff. They actually just switched jobs into kind of an operations position and they're trying to help that company get on their feet. And well, I shouldn't even say get on their feet, just grow further than they had in the past, and kind of lend some of his expertise to his industry and stuff like that. So um, I think it would be pretty easy to get him on as long as the schedule allows for it.
Yeah, good. Yeah, it'll be interesting. Because as I think about it, we're gonna have to figure out an angle to where they're not they're sharing something about their business, but they're not making themselves competitively like vulnerable, or like they're trying to sell to somebody, and then their customers like, well, your competition told me that you said on a podcast that
Yeah,
you're not good at
yeah,
this. um and so that would be kind of lame. So but yeah, we'll figure it out.
yeah, for sure.
um yeah,
So
so
looking down our
it,
to-dos, it looks like
yeah, no,
we've done a good amount of those as well.
well, because I just added a bunch this morning so that I could share them basically, so
Yeah,
that
okay,
I could
gotcha.
have
Because
work to report. Because I wasn't like going through the rocks to get all this stuff done. I was like, I just know these things need to get done, and I'm not going to go back and redocument everything before I do it.
mm-hmm.
So I just like, so by URL done.
Yep.
Point URL to hosting done.
Yep.
SSL setup.
I was gonna say when I went to the website, it looked like it needed to be set up. Um,
Organized brand guide done. Clean up temp logo done.
yep. Uh,
Add custom CSS to hide the menu. Yeah, but I just haven't pushed it to production yet. I did that in staging.
oh, okay.
So um, added
Uh,
cleaned up logo to YouTube done. Okay.
so I'm kind of adding as we go. So for the people who can't see what we're doing, since we're not sharing our screen, we have a shared board that we use
Yep.
at Trello.com, and there's a free version of it that we use just to collaborate a little bit, and it has different boards that you can put a list of to-dos and action items underneath it. So things he says are done, he's actually checking them off our boards, and I can real time be adding things as well. So I just added start some SEO, because we do want this to be available to anyone who could need some help and wants to build their business more. So just trying to figure out what kind of terms we want to use, and how we can get this out there effectively through organic growth, obviously. Because right now this is a pretty pro bono, just helping people out where we can, that we don't have any marketing funds or anything like that to try to get this to people. So trying to use our search engine optimization where the best we can to get this to rank and help people out organically. So,
Yep.
but yeah, that's one of the to-dos I was going to work on this morning, but the sound equipment kind of stole my whole morning on that one. And it still was not quite done yet. I thought I had it all perfect, and alas, it was not. So those who again didn't see it, and there's no way you could have seen it. I fought for about a half hour on the Zoom call trying to get my speakers to work, because for whatever reason, from an hour earlier, it did not work. So, but yeah, the SEO, I was going to start that this week and start trying to find some terms. So if anyone wants to comment in the bottom of what, or in the post of YouTube, what they want to hear and things like that, give us a little bit of an idea of some terms we can use to try to help get this to your feeds a lot easier, because obviously we want to help you guys out as much as we can.
Yep. Yeah, that's good. Um, so so the IDS, the identify, define, and solve. So we have two items in there, and one of them is they're kind of similar right now. Do we need to add any right now, Brandon, or do you think we can work on these, or just look at these ones for now?
Probably just look at these, because we probably need to see where we actually stand now that we've gotten so much stuff done.
Yeah. All right. I like it. So what we have right now is we have two things. We have a lightweight business plan now that we're settled on a podcast YouTube. So we there are a lot of ideas when you're starting to publish something like this and you want to, create something that'll help businesses, and a lot of options. We ended up settling on a YouTube podcast because we can get on a call like this, record it, and share it with people. So,
Hmm.
um, and it's visual, and you can see us talking. And so we started with that. We want to, I think, we want to make the most of it, though. We're not trying to make a killing or make a ton of money on this. um it's more just kind of like general career, like just expertise for us, and just being able to help people. And so, but at the same time, we want to make sure that we're how do you know if you're useful if people are clicking, buying, and so I don't know, Brandon, we haven't really talked about that, but it's kind of a um something I got from economics, from a kind of a free market economic perspective. If you're not um if nobody wants to pay for your stuff, then it's like, are you really helping people, or are you just doing stuff?
Yeah.
So, um and I think the same thing applies even if you're not trying to make a killing, right? um
100%.
so, and then the next item, that was first item. The next item is merge with business plan, which is break down podcasts with story and generalities, and then a paid version that goes into detail, the really useful specific process related stuff. And so, um right now that strikes me as complicated. So
Yeah.
I
Just
don't know.
reading that, I'm like, oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah. So we have options here. We could always, so we can order the IDS. We can order and say which one we want to talk about first. Once we do that, we can say, this is complicated, let's move it out and let's put it in the backlog and maybe never even do it ever. Never even look at it again. Um, or we can look at it, consider it, maybe create a pared down version of it, or
Hmm.
whatever. So we have some options.
Yep, for sure. And I think right now, I am, at least on my side of things, the biggest thing I want to just work on is just keep creating more content for people, get more information out there and just help them where we can in the short term. Because for those who don't know, we both have full-time jobs. This is something we're just kind of doing for fun on the side and just trying to help people out where we can. You share our expertise from our both of our experiences and different backgrounds. For those who don't know, Chris has a little bit more of a marketing background, but marketing operations, and my background's a little bit more on a financial and process operations. Um, Not so much marketing. I am not a creative guy. Spreadsheets is really my thing, but so we don't have a ton of time to really go in depth with some people. We're absolutely happy to help someone if they want to get a little coaching or help them on the side and just kind of walk them through some things and give them some tips. But by and large, right now, we're just really working on trying to get content out there to help people wherever they're at this point. So,
I would even disagree just a little bit with that.
oh,
I
really?
mean,
Okay.
we're in an I so let this be an example of IDSing,
Yeah, absolutely. There's
because
going to be difference of opinions.
yeah, like helping people on the side. I don't really, I don't consider myself like as, I don't know, free to do that, just time
Hmm.
wise. I want you to come
Sure.
on the call. I want you to come on the podcast, and I want to workshop things on the podcast, and then figure out a way to help there, and in a way that, like we said earlier, just in a way that doesn't put you in a bad spot with your market, your competition, to where they have like ammo to use against you. Like, oh, they said
Sure.
they're not as good at this, and it's like, well, nobody in the industry is good at that, but what, or whatever.
Yeah.
um but in a way that also helps you and gives you kind of like, free, even just conversation around a topic, like around your business, even just a conversation that helps your helps you to make better decisions, or just even just like stepping away from your business for for a little bit, getting on a podcast and just talking in general about it and about your problem,
Hmm.
and that can be so helpful. just sounding board wise, much less the
That's true.
fact that we might have some things for you to try. I mean, that's what we talk about all the time. Like, we're not going to
Hmm.
not have things for you to try, right? We're not going to
Yeah.
not have any ideas. And so, I think that would be super valuable. So,
Hmm.
uh, but yeah, that would be my ask, is that we get you on the podcast, and then maybe I don't know, maybe we work something out where there's like a couple of minutes at the end where we just chat offline, where we're not recording or anything like that, and we can talk in a little bit more detail. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. I think that would be a lot of fun to bring someone on, and we can even workshop their problems
yeah,
live pretty much and just kind of show how we think through different processes and um, org- organizations, organization, if that makes sense.
yeah. Organization is at the heart of all this. Like,
It really
organizing all your
is.
stuff, and it doesn't have to happen. You don't have to stop everything and do it. It's just something that where you just like gradually grow in the mindset. You start doing it little by little. It's like working out. It's like, if you think
Hmm.
you have to go to the gym for 3 days a week for like an hour, and it takes a half hour to get there or whatever, it's like,
Yep.
dude, now you're into it how many hours a week from 0 to that? And now you
Yeah.
don't feel like you can. It's like, no, just like start by going, just like jog a mile, as much jogging as you can. That's it. That's
Mhm.
all. That's how you start getting in shape. You
Yeah.
build on it, and you get where you want to go, and pretty soon, like, otherwise it's just too much too soon, and it's just hard to do. It's a New Year's
Yeah.
resolution that fails. So
Hmm. For sure.
I'm gonna vote we take I added something to our IDS. So I'm gonna vote that we take, and it's just setting goals for the channel, because
Yep.
I thought, oh, merge with the business plan, that fancy thing we decided, like, that looks complicated. What if we just said, hey, let's set some goals and then try to meet them and see if we can figure out how to meet them.
Yeah. I agree. I trying to see where this goes. That's hard to see. And we've discussed this many, many times. We're kind of letting this go where God takes it. So
Yep.
I don't want to put our ideas too far out there
Mhm.
and try to just push for us. I want to see where God will take it and let him kind of guide this thing and have some general goals that we feel that he's leading us to, and see where people show interest and desire to want to learn and not try to be so rigid about it. So yeah, I think we definitely need to set some goals,
Mhm.
a little
Yep.
bit how much content we want to put out and a general direction, but nothing too firm right now.
Okay. So, how I'd want to approach that, if you're okay with it, is to say, all right, like, let's pick a like a goal. So we have two things that are measurable. One of them is, probably the bottom of the funnel is getting people on our mailing list. So,
Yep.
because that's the hardest thing. That's going to be the fewest. Like, more people will watch the video than will get on the mailing list, right? So,
Absolutely.
um, so that's the bottom of the funnel, and we say, well, we want 5 people a month on the mailing list or something like
Hmm.
that, right? Then it's like,
Yep.
okay, well, then how many are our free meetings going to end in 10 minutes? So, um, so, what's our, oh, stand by. Zoom is selling to me now. All right. So, all right. So, of our funnel, so, like a marketing funnel, it's like,
Hmm.
the top is like, oh, nobody knows about you. How do they find out initially? Oh, there's a thing called, you know, Talk Ops with Brandon and Chris, right?
Hmm.
And then they go down the funnel, and it's like, oh, they've watched the video, they watch a podcast. Okay, well, even lower than that is, even fewer people are going to give us their email address and say, yeah, I want to hear from you guys every month, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yep. I think we do need to. You pretty much outlined it right there. But we do need to add some information to each of those levels, because I think we also need to think through a little bit, what do those newsletters contain and things like that, because that is one thing we've talked about. We want to do put something out once a month, a written document that again gives more ideas, more tools and tricks and things like that to running an organized business. And we'll need to and maybe that's something we need to put on this list as well, is putting together what does that look like. Um, Not that anyone's necessarily signing up quite yet, being that this is only the second week, but I'd like to have some content and stuff like that ready for when people do desire to hear a little bit more in-depth information on what we've got.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. We should probably have like three things lined up before, even though, obviously we don't have to build it until someone signs up. It would be nice to have the content we want to send figured
Mm-hmm.
out, because that's usually the harder part, is like, oh, we have to send an email. Well, what are we going to write? Well, it's like, let's figure that out from the front. We have our outline that we use to record our first podcast. And so
Mm-hmm.
we can probably grab something from in there that's pretty high level, where it's like, I don't know, what did we talk about, why we're doing it,
Mm-hmm.
that's not necessarily a prescriptive list of things they should do, but I don't know. What I'd love to talk about is just like high level, like from the top down, like what are your departments, and where, let's like rating system,
Mm-hmm.
where are the toughest parts of your business, like let's do something like that. And then and then for each, maybe there's like a checklist of like things to how to measure,
Mm-hmm.
each of your departments, like maybe some just, and it can't be more than like a page probably,
Yeah.
we could make a page interesting, a well laid
Mm-hmm.
out just Google Doc, just page with our logo on the bottom.
Yeah. I think one of them probably how to process map a little bit. How to, once you've decided this is what you want to do based on your high level goals, how do
Mm,
you start mapping out that process and implementing those goals throughout the organization? So I think there's a lot of information we can share with people. It's just a matter of getting it down on paper and making it an interesting format that people want to see.
yeah, it's definitely we won't run out of things to talk about, that's for sure. So
Yeah.
um yeah, I also, I just want to remember our idea about getting an accountant, like a good accountant on, like
Yeah.
some accountants that can kind of help people through these topics, dude. That that still strikes me as such a useful thing for people. And so if they're listening to the podcast, hearing what we're saying, and then they're like, yeah, I want to do that, but I don't know who to talk to, because there are different kinds of accountants out there. Some are just
Absolutely.
like we talked about, risk averse. All right, well, good if you want to reduce your risk. But usually, I think a lot of people, when they're talking to us or when they're listening to this, it's like, I have a problem to solve. I'm not trying to reduce
Mm-hmm.
risk everywhere. I have a
Yeah.
problem to solve. And it's not a general what if something happens problem. It's like a, um, operational problem. And I want to know like how, how to solve something, how to think about it differently, how to organize my business
Oh,
so that
absolutely.
I can
Yeah. I
see
mean,
those things.
yeah, they've got the accountants for how to minimize your tax burden or um, get better with your taxes and plan for the future. You got liquidation accountants who help. How do you deal with the funds that do come from an organizational sale? So and there's all sorts of different accountants who specialize in different tax code and accounting policy and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I've worked with a couple different ones and I actually work with two of them currently. One, really good as a bookkeeper, really great at tracking all the different purchases and stuff through a business's flow. Then we got a different one who deals with just the payroll and how to process payroll. And then there's another one that I have talked to a little bit, who is a lot better at like interstate business. So I do business in three different states. Well, if you're collecting revenue from three different states, you got different sales tax policies, you got workman's comp, unemployment tax, you might have different payroll practices. So there's interstate accountants, and there's
Yep.
just a whole bunch of different ones, and they all have really, really good information. So if anyone
Yeah.
does want to hear them, we're more than happy to bring on an accountant and
Yep.
let us know what kind of specialty you want to hear, and we'll bring on some of those guys.
Yeah. And I think we have like 3.5 minutes, looks like.
Yeah,
But
I'm saying that.
the ultimately it's like, what we want to talk about is how do you get your business organized, ready to sell and or hand off or whatever, right? How do you get it organized?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm my mind goes back to like how do you organize to sell? And I think accountants are probably front and center with that. If you're like, and then
Absolutely.
what's the process, right? And so it's like if we had a cheat sheet that was like, here's the big process, here's the things you have to have in
Mm-hmm.
order, think about today, and then people can be like, well, I'm not really sure what that means. And like even, oh dude, even like having a podcast where people ask us like, what is what does that mean? Why is that important? Kind of thing too. And
Yeah.
then have us kind of answer some questions too. So anyway,
Mm-hmm.
um, before we go though, we want to. I think you and I probably should jump on and chat for a couple of minutes, but we should normally then what you do after the IDS is there's the conclusion of the meeting, right? So you get tasks
Mm-hmm.
out from the IDS, setting goals for the channel. We'll do that when we get off. We'll do that offline, but conclusion of the meeting. So we rate the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
Was it a good use of our time? Like how like just rate it based on what you expected to happen in the
Yeah.
meeting and how productive you thought it was. And so I think this meeting we went through things pretty fast. We stayed mostly on track and we didn't go over time, which is one of my requirements. I don't want to
Yeah.
usually I don't want to start later and late. Start on time,
Yeah.
end on time. And so I'm gonna say this one's a 9. I'm gonna say 9, and then we would average out our scores. What do you think?
Actually, that was the same number I had in my mind. We moved through things really efficiently. Definitely got to clean up because, again, we've talked so much about organization, making sure you got a clean house internally. So, got our boards cleaned up again, got a couple new ideas on there. So, I think leaving things in a good position and should have a good week this week, tackling some more tasks. So, yeah, all in all, I was actually thinking a 9 as well.
Awesome. All right. Well, that'll do it. I will let's jump on and chat again on Google.
Yeah, that
Jump back
works.
on that same link.
Yep, that
All right,
works.
man. See you there.
All right, see ya. Bye.